My reading year so far has been pretty good, but the question is, what am I going to do with the last few months of it? Today we're going to get into that with the end of the year book tag. Hi, I'm Ben, welcome back to my channel. So this tag was started a number of years ago by Ariel Bissett, and I did it last year and really enjoyed it. More recently, I've seen the tag for 2023 on Charlotte Malloy's channel and also Alice and the Giant Bookshelf's channel. And while nobody has tagged me to answer the questions, I thought, why not? And you should take that approach too. So if you're watching this and you want to answer these questions, then please go ahead, consider yourself tagged, and do share your thoughts with me down in the comments. What I really like about this tag is that it's pretty short, it's only 6 questions long, but they are very much to the point and they get you to reflect on what it is you want to achieve with the remaining months of the year, as well as looking forward to next year and thinking about what, if any, planning you want to do around your reading life. Anyway, I respect your time, so let's not faff around any longer and get right into question 1. Okay, so the first question is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? And other than the book that I'm actively currently reading, I only have one that I've started reading earlier in the year and would love to get around to finishing, and that is This Ragged Grace by Octavia Bright. You may know Octavia Bright as the co-host of the Literary Friction podcast, which is awesome, and she also is a host on the BBC radio show Open Book now and again. I think she's just a really interesting, deeply thoughtful, uncompromisingly progressive and feminist commentator on books and literature and publishing, and I absolutely love listening to her speak, not least because she has an amazing voice. If you are interested in this book, actually, I think she reads the audiobook herself, so I would highly recommend spending a few hours with her in your ear holes. I have a physical book because I went to see her at an event at a bookshop nearby to me, and it was great. Got to hear her speak about the process of writing this and what it's all about, but also had a chat with her afterwards and got her to sign the book. I actually have ruminated on that conversation quite a lot because we spoke briefly about both having been to Hay Festival because I went to some of the events and she was there talking about this book, and we had both seen a female comedian that was really exceptionally funny at the festival. But I jumped straight to talking about this comedian's husband, and I was like, this is the most anti-feminist thing I could have done to this person who I really respect as like an amazingly, uncompromisingly feminist person. I feel like such a schmuck, but I panicked and I couldn't think of anything else to say. Octavia, if you ever see this, I'm sorry, please don't think I'm some stupid misogynist that only thinks about women in terms of who they're married to. That's not true at all. Anyway, we've got way off track. I think this book is Octavia Bright's first piece of long-form writing, and it is a memoir about her experience of recovering from alcohol addiction. I've read the first chapter, it was great, I want to finish it. Question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? Not really, actually. I would have liked to have read some sort of horror book or a campus novel because both of those things feel quite autumnal to me, but I haven't picked up either of those sorts of things lately. I have recently just finished Blackouts, which the cover gives me autumn vibes, which I mentioned on Simon Savage's channel, and he did quite rightly point out that it's also quite wintry. I think it's just something about this sort of golden shimmery background that's giving me big crispy leaf energy, and that feels quite autumnal. Anyway, we are in the dying days of October at the time that I'm filming this, and so Halloween is coming up, and there's an outside chance that I might pick up and try and fly through Frankenstein. I know people really love this book. I'm kind of skeptical because I don't tend to love classics. I find them quite a slog, but the font in here is very nice and clear. Often, you know, with old books and they've got like these tiny fonts and the quality of the print is not very good, I just find that not very enjoyable to read. But this, good edition by the looks of it. Maybe I will. Question 3 is there a new release you're still waiting for? It's funny that I just mentioned Blackouts actually, because that was one that I'd been really anticipating, but thanks to the kind folks at Granta, I got my hands on a copy a little bit early. That is one that I've already read. I'm going to review it in my next wrap up. Spoiler alert, I really loved it. But yeah, that's coming out on the 2nd of November, so if it's not on your radar, it should be. But other than that, there's not too much. I think there's like Heartstopper Volume 5 is coming out in November, as well as the new Paul Auster one. What's that called? Baumgartner. That sounds pretty good. But yeah, I don't think there are tons of releases still to come this year, but I am getting very excited about the stuff coming out next year. Question 4 is, What are 3 books that you want to read before the end of the year? This was really hard to narrow down because basically the list of books that I want to read is much, much longer than my capacity to read. And so I've just picked 3 that I've queued up as ones that I want to read soon. It's kind of arbitrary, the idea that I want to read them this year. There's no real reason for it to happen in November and December and not January, but these are ones high up on my list. The first is Northwoods by Daniel Mason. And I got my hands on a US edition because I'm obsessed with this big cat. I don't know if anyone is on Bookstagram, but there's been lots of cat action on Bookstagram and I'm loving it. This book sounds amazing. It's got only praise from the people that I've seen have read it already. And I think it's like this really long sweeping history set largely around one single home, which sounds like a really great concept. I am looking forward to seeing what Daniel Mason has done with it. Then I have Loot by Tania James. This isn't actually out in the UK until January, but I was sent a copy of it early by Vintage, which is really exciting. This was recently longlisted for the National Book Award for Fiction. It didn't make the shortlist, but it did get a really positive response from people. I think this is historical fiction. I don't know too much about it, and I kind of want to go into it blind, but I love... Again, we've got another big cat on the cover. Maybe that's the theme for the rest of the year. Big cats. Big cats. Yeah, very much looking forward to this one. Could be a contender for the Booker as well. And then finally, maybe a bit of a left field pick, but a book called The Portrait of a Mirror by A. Natasha Jakovsky. This is a book that I had never heard of until it was recommended on a podcast called What Should I Read Next? And the way it was described just sounded really great to me. It's this story of these privileged New York people, and it's a retelling of the story of Narcissus, hence the image on the front of the book. And apparently it's got a lot of big brain energy, but it's filled with gossip and scandal. So I am just excited to read this. It's got comparisons on the back to Jonathan Franzen, Donna Tartt, and Succession, the TV show. So I feel like this could turn out to be an underappreciated banger. So I'm really excited to read this. So yeah, those are my 3 picks that I want to read before the end of the year. And I can't wait to disappoint you all by reading something completely different instead. But I tried, and that's what counts. Question 5 is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? So those 3 that I just mentioned could become faves of the year, but because I'm so excited about them, that wouldn't really be a shock. I think what could be the biggest shock of all is that I'm thinking about rereading Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, which I did not get on with at all when I was doing my Booker Prize reading, but I think I went into it with the wrong expectations and I thought something more would happen than did happen. So yeah, I don't know if on a second reading I can not worry so much about the plot and sink more into the vibes and the subtext, and maybe I'll get a lot more out of it. If this does become a fave, I will be shocked. I will eat my hat, which I'll have to buy first because I don't have a hat. Maybe I'll buy like a hat-shaped cookie and eat that. I'm not counting on it. I guess what would be a surprise is something that I pick up on a whim. I've got this sort of vague idea of what I want to read over the next few months, but sometimes I do just like to reach for my shelves or pick up a book from the library or from a bookshop and just read that instead. That's probably where a surprise fave is most likely to come from. Right, our 6th and final question is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? And I kind of have, actually. I recently put a poll on my channel asking about what you, my lovely viewers, would like to see. And the most popular option that you voted for was a monthly prompt that we can all join in with. So I've been thinking a lot about what I'm planning to call the Read Good Challenge, but if you have a better name for it, please do let me know. But yeah, I've been hacking together some ideas for some prompts and it's been really fun. I will do a video about those prompts and talk you through them towards the end of the year. And I'll probably need to set up like a story graph and stuff like that, which I know some people do want to follow me on Goodreads. I'm probably going to keep that private and set up a more public story graph. And story graph is great for setting all of these challenges. So I'll put all the prompts on there or something. I'll let you know. I'm also getting probably a bit too hyped about 2024 releases. The floodgates are truly open on 2024 announcements, and I'm feeling quite swept away by the tide of new and exciting titles. Super Excited for a new Richard Powers book, which has just been announced for September. Julia Armfield's second novel is also coming out. And there are also new ones from Michael Cunningham and Andrew O'Hagan. So I am pumped for all of those authors. They are all people whose books I have loved and whose work I would love to read some more of. So very much looking forward to those. Oh, and actually I'm really excited about a new book. I think it's a debut from Kaveh Akbar called Martyr, which I've seen a lot of people in the US on Instagram have advanced copies of, and people have just been raving about it. It sounds really brilliant, sounds very like witty and provocative, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. But that is all just me on my like new release bullshit, which has only gotten worse since I started the channel. I did used to read a lot more backlist books. In terms of other planning though, I'm debating at the moment whether to read along with the Booker next year. It was pretty fun to do it this year, but it was also quite grueling. And I don't know necessarily that I got as much out of some of the books as I would have if I'd read them at sort of my own pace. And I'm also thinking about how much I want to read along with the Women's Prize. I don't think I'd do a project to read the whole Women's Prize long list just because it's 16 books and that's a bit too much for me. Like 13 books of the Booker was a lot, but 16, to be honest, is too much. So I might be a little bit selective with what I pick from that. I do potentially want to read a little bit more non-fiction, as well as some thrillers and some lighter books. I feel like my reading has very much been heavily tilted in favour of these like literary, deep, challenging books. And I enjoy that a lot, but it's quite taxing on your brain. And so there are evenings where I'm feeling a bit tired and I do just want to do a little bit of reading before bed, but I end up either not taking in what I'm reading because I need to think about it more deeply, or it just sends me to sleep. But maybe being sent to sleep by a book is a good thing when you're reading in bed. I don't know. Anyway, something a little bit lighter, a little bit more variety, a little bit of light with the dark in my reading life. I say all that, but the truth is I really don't like to plan too much in this household, despite Matt's best efforts, because I have to do a lot of planning at work and I like to keep it quite free and easy in my personal life. So yeah, I say all that now and it might completely go out the window. Just who I am. So that's it. Those are the 6 questions of the tag. I told you it was quick. Didn't I tell you it was quick? If you'd like to answer one or all of those questions, then please do feel free to answer them in the comments and we can have a chat about it. Or if you are a booktuber or an aspiring booktuber, then why not make a video? Tag me in it and I will watch it. If you did enjoy this video today, please do give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out. And if you'd like to see more of my content, then hit the subscribe button and my videos will start to appear in your subscriptions feed. But until next time, toodles. You're giving me